I am a fan of MMA, although it's very hard to be a fan of MMA these days. Although there's good reasons to be a fan of MMA. It's a good sport that involves um, tons of different martial arts and combines them. Because of that, it draws into unique fighting cultures of different cultures all around the world and their own heritage, different styles they bring to it. And they all get put into this mixing ground of combat where you get to find out what techniques actually work. It's also one of the sports that does not have really like a designated body type to be competitive and successful at it. Like obviously there's a body type for football players and for basketball players, and you can pretty easily tell, who's going to be better at what sport based off of just what their body looks like, how lanky they are, how much size they have. But besides having to make a weight class and show up at a certain weight, people in all sorts of different body types have success in all sorts of different weight classes, and it's something where people can really use the attributes that are given to them and be successful regardless of technique or size. You can use what works best for you, and you can beat someone with a completely different style. Styles do really make fights, and MMA math is not a linear thing that adds up together, so it can be very interesting to see what permutations happen. Sadly, it's almost impossible to be a good fan of MMA these days with a conscious or someone who follows the sport for a long period of time, because all sports are sort of monopoly leagues, but MMA has the UFC as its main source, and really I think just they don't pay their fighters enough, and I think almost pretty much all problems with the UFC stem from the fact they don't pay their fighters enough. Many people don't realize that UFC fighters start on, I believe, a 12-12 contract, which means they make $12,000 if they win, to show up, and $12,000 if they win. And between trying to get scheduled to fight multiple times a year to avoid injury and all that stuff, maybe fighters are fighting 3 times a year, which means their base pay is coming just below 73,000, I believe, if they don't win any bonuses or anything like that. And that's well below what the minimum salary of a WNBA player or really any other big professional sports league, which is just embarrassing for the UFC if they had any shame, because they try to sell themselves like they want to be one of the major sports up there with soccer, hockey, football, baseball, basketball, and at the same time they don't promote any of their fighters, and they don't give their fighters a wage to actually be a professional athlete. And so you have fighters who can't stick around long enough to usually really develop their skills, and people who don't become the champions are more and more getting pushed out to not really being headlined cards and not being given, it seems like, good working salaries like they should be given, and how mid-level boxers, it seems, or even not mid-level, but contending boxers seem to make much better money. And I think that the UFC fighters are in great denial about that. And it makes, even all the problems that the UFC has about, basically having no stars and no interesting personalities, I think all these fighters having to work second jobs stops them from being able to promote themselves. And the UFC has a concerted strategy of not promoting any fighter above the brand, because they don't want a situation like they had with Conor McGregor, where suddenly a fighter has actual leverage over them. And so, as a longtime fan of martial arts and combat, I'm just watching my sport get shittier and shittier, and that's not even touching on the massive levels of corruption they're involved with within the Trump administration. which is horrible.